Hello, good evening, and welcome back to Game Week 33 of the Premier League live at the Stakehouse. I'm Conor McCabe, joined once again, unfortunately, by the main man, Lucas Dazinski, with his data model, which proved to be pretty successful in this last game week just gone, right?
Easy. I got 3 out of 4. No, yeah, 3 out of 4. So, how about you? How
Yeah,
did
yeah,
you
yeah,
get
yeah.
on?
No, I'm talking about you, mate. I'm talking about you.
Yeah. There
Talking
you
about the
go. We need
model,
to
you
get
know?
that Google sheet out and share it around. Yeah.
Oh, you and your Google Sheet. But yeah, no, 3 out of 4 tips. Very, very profitable on your part. So very nice work there. Game week 33 is a very busy one. We've got 12 fixtures to get our
He's the
teeth
same.
into. So without further ado, here we go. And we're starting on the game that we're both actually going to. It's Brentford versus Brighton. Are you lot going to do the business in front of our eyes?
Yeah, I feel like Brentford have been picking up a lot of form. I think every season we always finish quite well. I think I don't know, maybe teams drop off and we just pick them off, but I think we should do quite well in this game. And I'm I'm back in Brentford, 0-8 handicap. So basically, if it's a draw, if it is a tight game, I can't see Brentford losing this personally. But famous last words. If it's a draw, then you get your money back. So a bit of insurance, and you can get a price of around like 1.88 for that. So pretty decent. Look, Brighton drew last week, didn't they? So 2-2 against Everton. So, Everton? What? Leicester. So there you go. How's that home? Even though they did smash them on XG, but
Do
yeah,
you think if Brentford have an amazing run here on in, Europe is still
yes,
potential?
100%. But need to win every single game.
Okay.
Saying that, it's possible. Brentford's we got obviously Brighton at home, then we got Forest away, United at home. I mean that's
Banker, yep.
a banker.
Carry
Ipswich
on.
away could be tough, but probably be down by then because that'll be the third last game of the season. Fulham at home could be a tough game, and then Wolves away. Wolves up, don't care. It's a bit of a nothing game for them, right? But for us, there'll be a lot to play for. So if we
That
win
Fulham
against
one should be a
Brighton,
cracker if they're playing for Europe as
yeah, and
well.
also if you think about it, the teams we're contending against are Brighton, who are above us, and Fulham, right? So if we win those two games,
Can
and the
really help us
others,
push.
obviously, we can actually leapfrog quite a few teams. But yeah,
Cool.
let's not dwell into that.
My take on it very quickly is I think it's actually both sides coming into this on a run of pretty bad form. Brentford have only won one in the last four. Brighton have only won one in the last four. So no team's absolutely firing on all cylinders. I think it's
Yeah, you
I
say that, but I mean, I feel Brentford did all right against. They lost against Newcastle away, but played well. Did all right at Arsenal, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I think both can have the hard luck stories, but in terms of results, that is where they're at. I think that I agree with you. It's last chance saloon for Brentford. They need to win this to have any chance. But Brighton have fallen off a little bit, and they'll look at this as a win needed as well. I think both teams will look to correct recent records. I think there's goals in this game.
yeah.
I'm a little bit more unwilling to go with an exact result. If you push me, I might say a 2-2 all draw. But good to hear you coming up with an official tip to start us off. Let's move on to Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth. I'll kick us off here. I've got an official tip. And it's a theory that I've been parading for quite a while. It's on Bournemouth. And I think
Bournemouth to be winning at half time, lose full time.
you're not too far off. But it's Bournemouth fatigue that I do want to focus on. The second half of games, they're just running out of legs. You know, Iraola plays a very intense style of football. They don't rotate too much. They're very reliant on key players. And the result of that, as we get later and later into the season, is that we're seeing a drop off in the second half of games. They conceded 2 at West Ham recently. The game just gone against Fulham. They were literally out on their feet second half. Fulham were pretty dreadful and still in the last 20 minutes basically just laid siege to their goal. I think that Palace to win the second half here as a bet at 2.62 is a very, very interesting shout. And so for that reason, provided Palace don't go in leading comfortably at half time, I think that Palace to go on and win the second half in front of their own fans is a shout that I'm going to go with. So I'm putting that up as an official tip. Palace to win second half, 2.62.
Okay, well, I'm just going for Palace 0 on Asian handicap at 1.87. So again, if Palace draw, you get your money back. If Palace win, you win. So a bit of insurance. They did get smashed. We were recording this just after Newcastle and after the Arsenal game. They did get smashed 5-0. But if you look at the XG, it was actually pretty close if you exclude the penalty.
And even if you don't,
probably the worst penalty
we've ever seen.
Maybe, yeah. But,
yeah.
Anyway.
But even so, I mean, concluding all XG, Palace actually won the XG battle by around 0.7, would you believe? And that's crazy for a team that's just got beat 5-0. But it's important to take things like that into account with your betting.
Yeah, I mean, like every single shot, Newcastle had, it kind of went in. It was quite lucky goals, so... Anyway,
Jacob Murphy basically scored from the byline. Looking at it,
you've got fantasy. Me, thank you.
Yes, forget about that. Anyway, there you go. So we're 3 official tips already after 2 games. We're moving on. We're looking at Everton versus Manchester City. What on earth do you do with this City conundrum?
Honestly, I had obviously tipped a Palace +1 when it was 2-0 up. I was like, okay, counting my money already. This is one thing you never should do, especially against City, no matter how bad the season they've had. I think the Palace just looked so shaky at the back. Even before they went 2-0 up, obviously they went 3-0 and then had the goal rightly disallowed, but still at the back they were a bit shady. No Gahey, but yeah, I thought they would, at least get a draw out of that, being 2-0 up. Our City back, again, who knows? KDB was on fire, probably his best game he's had this season, right?
Yep, agree.
But it's one game, right? Who knows? I think Everton's a bit of a high price here, so I'm going Everton +0.5. I got on at evens, actually. It's gone down to 1.9, so the market's moving in the right direction. Still value now, so yeah, I'm going Everton. Everton +0.5 is basically just need Everton to draw.
We have the same tip here. So I'm also tipping up. I'm phrased it differently. I phrased it as Everton double chance, but it's effectively the exact same bet. I need Everton to either win or draw. My theory behind it is that while City are improved, if there's a clear discrepancy between their home form and their away form, they've actually only won 1 in their last 4 games away from home, and that includes a very similar defeat to a team that play a very similar style of football as Everton in Nottingham Forest. I told the listeners that when Everton and Nottingham Forest played each other last week, that they'd cancel each other out and there'd be a lack of goals. That proved to be the case with 1 in stoppage time. I think this could be a very similar game. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Everton narrowly win this game. If you ask me for score prediction, I'd be tipping 1-0 Everton. But
I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, Everton on the double chance market is a bet for me. So there you go. That's double faith there. All members of the pod.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. If anything, it's probably don't back that one.
Let's move on and talk about West Ham versus Southampton. What are you thinking?
We got nothing on this.
Okay. I mean, ultimately for me, I think that looking at it, I've been really keen to try and back a few more player markets. It's something that I've dropped off from doing in recent weeks, and it's cost me a little bit, actually. It's something that I've actually done pretty well throughout the season. The difficulty is recording quite early. We don't have a lot of the odds that we'd like to have at this point on player markets, particularly for shots on target, bookings, things like this. So I'm going to give some advice rather than tipping up something officially. But I just want to focus on Kamaldeen Sulemana, who plays out wide on the left for Southampton. First of all, don't back him until you see that he's starting, because there's a very good chance that he'll actually be on the bench, right? So we need to make sure that he's playing first of all. But if he is, he's definitely a player to look at. I watched him closely against United at Old Trafford on a big pitch. He has got pace to burn, this lad. He absolutely tied Leno Yoro up in knots. Not that that's not important feat, but still, I've never seen anyone make him look quite as average as Suleimani did. So he played incredibly that game. London Stadium, equally, quite a large pitch as well. The onus will be on West Ham to get forward. The fans will be expecting a win here. I think they'll leave space in behind. I would be looking, if Soleimana starts, I would be looking at him on both the shots and the assists and goals market. I think they're all runners in this game, so keep an eye on that one. In terms of game, I do think West Ham should edge it, probably a 2-1, something like that. But let's move on. Let's talk about Aston Villa Newcastle. I know you've got things to say on this.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be quite a good game. Villa kind of need to win this game, to be honest. They played really well against PSG. Newcastle obviously just smashed Palace, but again on XG was bit closer. Perhaps it should have gone the other way. Saying that, like, I think Newcastle could edge this, and I feel like I'm going to be back in Newcastle here. Plus a quarter on the Asian handicap. So basically, what that means, if it's a draw, you get half a win. If it's a win, and you can get that 1.86. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a tight game, but I feel like if it's going to go one way, I think Newcastle, just on paper, to me, I feel like they have a better squad and a better chance to win that game.
So that's Newcastle plus 0.25 on the Asian handicap. It'll either be written as plus 0.25 or it'll be written as 0 and plus 0.5, which is a layout that some bookmakers like to do. What you're doing there is going for the middle, which then equates to plus 0.25. So just be, when you're looking at the Asian handicap markets, just be aware of exactly what you're looking for there. As I say, it might be exactly plus 0.25 or it might say 0 and plus 0.5. So both of them mean the same thing, just to let people know. For me, I've not really got an official play on this one. I just think Villa at home are a very dangerous proposition. Having said that, Newcastle are riding high. They've gone third with a win tonight. I think this should be a very exciting watch, actually. I'm looking forward to actually just watching this game.
They can't lose this game because, it's important. I think, if Villa beat them, then the Villa close the gap by 2 to Newcastle, so something like that. So, like, it's tight. It's tight there.
But Villa have had some absolutely humdingers at home. I thought they were really impressive in the second half against PSG. But there's always lots of goals. They only know one way to play at home, and it's pedal to the metal. Newcastle just in a really good place going forward.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put anybody off the overs markets. I did look at them. They're a little bit skinny. But if you were looking for a play on that, I wouldn't back against. Something like 3-2 Villa would be my prediction.
I mean,
for this.
look, Newcastle might play a bit different, right? They'll be happy with a draw, to be honest. They're third with 59 points. Villa 54. Like, they're going to be happier with a draw than Villa, right? Villa need to win this if they want to, play in Champions League next season potentially.
So that's something to factor in, right? Is a draw a bad result for Newcastle? I'm not sure it is.
Yes,
So
probably not bad.
That's a question to consider when you're playing Lucas's bet. But let's move on. Let's talk about Fulham versus Chelsea. I mean, just before we get into this, you look at Chelsea's form in this second half of the season compared to the first, and it's literally chalk and cheese. And one of the key factors is the form of Cole Palmer, right? His form, yes, he assisted against Ipswich, but generally his form has fallen off a cliff in comparison to the first half. So ultimately, Chelsea are so reliant on him. When this happens, this is what triggers the fall from grace in Chelsea as a club. So how do Chelsea stop being Cole Palmer FC, basically? What do they need to do next season to ensure they're not so reliant on him? Where do they need to strengthen for you?
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, they've bought enough players. Do they need any more players? I feel like they just need to get a manager. To be honest, not sure what's going on with the manager. I feel like he started really well, right? And then at one point you tipped Chelsea to win the league. Did say you should do each way. But I feel like not that it matters anyway. But who knows? They could potentially still get there. Anyway, look, like no team can depend on one player. Like, you've seen it with City, right? They dropped off when they had key injuries, right? Mm-hmm. But then you look at teams like Brentford, right? Everyone was like, "Oh, Tony's leaving, Brentford going to suffer." If you look at the points average points per game with Tony and without Tony, we've actually done a lot better. So I feel like it's down to the manager. He needs to adapt. If a player's not playing well or he's in hit bad form, it shouldn't impact the whole team. Yeah, of course it's going to impact a little bit, but you can't the team can't be based around one player. It needs to be everyone a unit, right? I feel like Brentford did that quite well. I think it's a good example.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, when Bowley came in as chairman, one thing that he did was find the loophole in FFP, right? And sign a ton of young players on 8 or 9 year contracts, staggering the deals out to essentially make sure they fall within FFP guidelines. In one sense, that was really shrewd, right?
Yeah,
Because in his mind,
no one tries to do that before.
yeah, correct, right? And in his mind, the sell-on value should be phenomenal. But to make this tactic work, what he needed to do was focus almost exclusively on young players and young signings. And while that's positive in obviously so many different ways, the one downside of it then is you can question if there's a lack of leadership in the side. And that for me is a huge thing. Cole Palmer is a very young player, but a very mature player. And he manages to assume the role of leader as well as being dynamite. Whereas if you look around the rest of the Chelsea team, you just don't see enough leadership in that group for me. And that's what really concerns me. So players come in the side and out of the side. Some of them are very gifted. Some of them are talented. But ultimately, there's a lot of juggling going on. There's nobody, a little bit similar to a lot of the big clubs struggling at the moment, like United and Tottenham for sure. I don't see enough leaders in that Chelsea side. And I think that's something they need to establish ahead of next year in terms of where their core leadership group really is.
Need time, right? Just need time. You can't expect to spend all that money, have so many different players playing, lineups changing quite often as well, right?
That's part of it, but it's been a long time. It's been almost a full season now. I'm expecting a few of the leaders, some players to step up in that department. Moises Caicedo, somebody like that who's been around a little bit more around the block in the Premier League, plays in a very important position at the base of midfield. Somebody like him, and I'd like to see show a little bit more leadership as well as his ability. But that's where I think they're.
I mean, they shouldn't hide Maresca, right? He's got no Premier League experience apart from obviously holding Pep's hand and helping him out, right?
Yeah, this is it. I mean, I personally don't think he's the right man. As I say, the longer he's had to embed his ideas, the worse things have got. That certainly has to be looked at. But let's talk about the game. Fulham versus Chelsea. How do you see it going?
Based on what you said, I think Chelsea just dropped down massively, right? And Fulham, probably one of the most inconsistent teams of the season. Saying that, is that Fulham? Again, I'll be back in Fulham. 0 on the Asian handicap. I feel like it's theme of my tips for the week. Quite close games at 2.13. So just need to get a draw to get your money back. Fulham win, we win. So I feel like Fulham have the team to edge this, and yeah, like I said, Chelsea been a bit rubbish, right? Drew against Ipswich at home.
Yeah, I mean, more bad news, I'm afraid. We've got the same tip again. I've also gone Fulham 0.
Lay that in the double ASAP.
You're right in terms of Fulham are inconsistent, but I think personally that they thrive against better teams than they do against lesser sides. I think Marco Silva seems to have them more up for it, and against Chelsea at home, I think they will be up for it. I don't see any way Fulham lose this game. It could be a draw, but I don't see any way Fulham lose, which makes the Fulham 0 play on the Asian handicap, which is effectively the same as draw no bet, very attractive. So it's an official tip for me as well. So we're along the same lines with two of them.
Okay,
Ipswich versus Arsenal.
Nothing. I mean, Arsenal just went through, right? So they got PSG in 2 weeks' time. They're probably going to be resting a few players as well, like they did against Brentford. Ipswich, I mean, they're pretty much down, right? So it's just a bit of a dead game.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that Arsenal with a makeshift backline following Madrid, it's such a high to come down off. They might still nick it, but again, just one player that I want to highlight in this one. Again, the market's on out on him is Julio Enciso for Ipswich. So ex-Brighton player. In his last 3 games, he scored 1 goal and he's got 2 assists. It took him a little bit of time to settle at Portman Road. He's now settled. My suspicion, as I say, I admit I haven't seen the prices, but my suspicion is that the markets haven't adapted to him yet. So again, I'd be looking at the goals and assists and potentially even shots markets for Enciso. So definitely want to keep your eyes on there. Let's move on to talk about United. Wolves. I know that you absolutely love United. You rate them so highly. So I'm assuming that you've gone United on the Asian handicap here, right?
Yeah, I mean, United, yeah, just horrendous. Horrendous team, like awful. I don't know what the manager's doing. We speak about it every week. And look, even though Wolves are safe now, I still like the look of them. And look, I'm happy just kind of opposing United. So I'm going to go Wolves plus a half at 1.885. So Wolves just need a draw. I feel like they can go and get a draw at United quite easily.
Cool. I mean, for me, I can't really dispute too much of it, as much as it pains me to say. All I would say is, though, the game against Newcastle, don't read that much into it. It was a complete and utter dead rubber for United. Didn't matter, right? United's season now hinges on Europa League. Whether United finish 17th in the Premier League or whether they finish 10th, doesn't matter. Makes no odds whatsoever. So for us, it's all about putting our eggs in the Europa League basket. If United go out to Lyon on Thursday, I don't mind the media going to town on Amrin, on the squad, on the board, on whoever they want, right? Fine. At that point, sure. But I would happily have the 4-1, the 5-1 loss to Newcastle, 4-1 loss to Newcastle. I'd happily get stuffed at Wolves if it means that we get past Leon, right? Because ultimately, that's all that matters for our season.
If you get Champions League, sometimes next season will be like a
miracle.
It'll be mental. It'll be mental, and that'll be hilarious.
It's one game at a time, and it's Leon at home next. Looks, we should beat them, right? We were the better side out in France. We should beat them. So that's all I would say. So the media will obviously pile it on after the Newcastle game.
Start this game, you reckon?
I personally don't think it matters. Onana is down to start against Leon. Yeah. So that's all. Like, just be aware of that.
Yeah.
The media giving us a hard time there, but I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it didn't really matter. Wolves have been, excuse me, Wolves have been on incredible form. The one thing I would say, something inside me tells me they're due a bad result. That's the only tiny thing, because they're not going to.
Okay, they're due a bad result, but it won't be against United.
Potentially, let's see. I don't have a tip for this game. If you really push me, I'd maybe more heart than head, but I'll say United just nick it. But you've got the data, you've got the official tip, so from a results perspective and a head perspective, I would probably buy to you on this one.
The eye test. It's past the eye test.
Leicester versus Liverpool. I don't have a huge amount to say about this one, apart from the fact that Leicester, despite showing a few signs of life, I think they'll find Liverpool in job done mode here. I can see something low scoring, like 0-2. I don't think Liverpool will go and breeze 5-6 past them. I just think they'll just get it done.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about Tottenham versus Forest, because this is my nap of the weekend, actually. I just think this game could not be better set up for Nottingham Forest. Particularly with Tottenham, who, you've been pretty scathing of United right there, right? You surely must be saying a lot of the same things about Spurs. Particularly with Ange Ball, only one way of playing. It's kind of pedal to the metal. Forest have shown time and time again they're far too shrewd not to pick that off, and I think they'll pick that off quite comfortably here. You look at the last game Spurs played at home against Bournemouth. How they got out of there with a 2-2, I will never know. They were ridiculously lucky. Forest on the road, they're so well suited to teams coming out at them. I think Forest are better suited on the road than at home, even though the record there is pretty good. Worth noting that they're the only team to beat Liverpool this season on the road at all, but they did it on the road. And I think the away win here, it's not priced that highly at 2.86, but that's a reflection of how good Forest are. I think it's a banker. 2.86 Forest win away.
Cool. I mean, got nothing to say, to be honest. And again, Tottenham are going to be focusing on Europa League, so if they go through or not, they're going to be rotating as well.
Yep. Exactly that. Manchester City versus Aston Villa. Personally, I think that City will win, but I can't touch them at 1.7. What do you think?
Yeah, to be honest, should be a good game. This again, like this is a massive game to get Europe right. Both teams, well, City are fifth at the moment on goal difference. Villa seventh, right? Obviously, they're playing Newcastle, so again, this could be a must-win for both teams, right? So it'll be interesting to know, see how the prices move after the game, see what the dynamic is, but. Yeah, don't have a bet. I think City on paper are the better team by 0.77 goals. So I think the price is probably correct. So yeah, I'm not don't have a bet on this.
Cool. All right. We conclude with Arsenal versus Palace. Now, we've been pretty, detrimental about United and Spurs in this podcast, but if either of them win the Europa League, right, and Arsenal don't win the Champions League, would one of those teams have had a better season than Arsenal? Now, I'm not saying with this question they're a better team, right? I'm just saying, obviously Arsenal are a much better team than either of them. But I'm just saying, would the win? Let's suppose United win the Europa League, Arsenal fail to win the Champions League and come second. Have United had a better season than Arsenal?
Yeah, probably. As much as pains me to say it, but yeah, I mean, at least they've won something, right? You could say that. But then again, I don't know about you. It depends, right? Because United fans, such a big club, you shouldn't be winning Europa Leagues, right? That shouldn't be like motivating you much. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of a point you're above that. But then again, the situation you're in, you need that for Champions League football. So I think it's more the fact that you'll be playing Champions League football is a massive win, not the actual winning of the cup, right?
Oh, I think it's both. I mean, it'd be great to qualify for the
Really?
Champions League, but it's about the trophy wins as well. Absolutely,
Yeah, I
and
mean
and
Europa
Europa
League
League
though.
is still
Come
a
on.
the Europa League is still a significant trophy. We're not judging.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Brentford ever won that, I'd be over the moon. But it's United.
You wouldn't be seen on this podcast for weeks, mate.
Yeah, I mean, mad bender. But I mean, United. Like, come on, like.
But we're not judging United by the team of old. We're judging United now, and judging United now, ultimately for me, it's Champions League qualification or it's Champions League qualification plus trophy. There's only one winner. It's as comfortable as that. Of
But
course,
I know, yeah,
it's
okay,
also it's,
but say if Amaron, like got the team playing really well, like they're smashing teams, like playing some really nice football, and they finish fifth. Mm-hmm. I think that's a better achievement than winning Europa League. From where United are, that's definitely a better achievement.
I would agree that it's a better achievement, but I don't think that necessarily qualifies as a better season. You've got, in my view, football is still all about winning trophies. If you're not playing to win trophies, then what are you doing? Football's still about glory. And winning a trophy gives you more glory than finishing fifth. So while finishing fifth, I agree with you, is a better achievement. I would qualify the better season as the trophy win,
Yeah,
which also
season, but
brings Champions
I
League
don't know. I
football.
disagree. You still need to look at the long term of it, right? Because next
Correct.
season you're going to be horrendous again, right?
Correct. And that's where an Arsenal
Probably,
fan.
right? And would you not wish to like be really good and have like, team set up ready for next season? I'd
But
rather
see,
have that.
at least then we could look back on the trophy win now. Because an Arsenal fan would argue
Come
this
on,
point and they'd say,
just
no, Arsenal have had a better season because Arsenal have been more progressive,
no, no,
right?
no,
We're
no, no, no,
building
no. I
something, we're
wouldn't.
getting somewhere.
Yeah, but
But hang on
Arsenal
a minute.
were.
But ultimately, Arsenal have to win a trophy at some point, right? There's no point being progressive if you ain't going to win anything.
Yeah, but Arsenal. That's. Yeah, it would be bad. It's all in context of the team, right? United are in a really bad situation. So at the start of the season, or when did the manager come in? Like, can't remember
Amrin,
now.
Amrin, I think it was after like 8 or 9 games,
Yeah, like
10 games.
okay, where United is now, the the way they're playing at that point when that happened, we're like, oh, you know what? I'd rather finish fifth and him having the team play really well, ready for next season, everything set up, like players motivated, or would you rather win a cup?
Yeah, interesting. I
I'd
personally,
definitely rather have the
I
former.
think every fan will have a different answer, right? And again, there's no question of who's the better team here. It's obviously Arsenal by a million miles.
Is it?
It, what than United? Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. This isn't Fantasyland, right? But I'm just saying, ultimately, we look at the way Newcastle celebrated the Carabao, and you love to see that, right? And ultimately, that's what football is all about, you know. So yeah, that it's an interesting conversation to have. But let's talk about the fixture. I think Arsenal are way too short to back here at 1.5 against a Palace side that are very dangerous away from home. Agree?
Yes. Although at some point, Palace are going to have to start resting players for the cup, right? I mean, obviously Arsenal are going to be resting the players, right? But then Palace are playing 3 days after. So I feel like you kind of need to wait. Palace might be rotating massively, right?
That's a really good point. That's a
So
really good
I'm
point.
not, even though Palace at the moment +1, 2.0, not what, 2.09. So if Palace lose by one, you get your money back. Even that's a good price now. But if the lineups come out and they're resting, probably like Eze, Mateta, Gahey, Richards, whoever, which they probably will for the FA Cup against Villa, probably sway it. I'd say I think it's one of those games where, but even if they put out like full strength team, are they going to be like they're going to have one eye on the game on the cup, right?
100%. That's actually really intuitive thinking ahead. And actually, the one thing I disagree with is you saying that you need to wait for the teams because the problem of doing that is the Arsenal price will go, right? If we get to the lineup stage and Palace have rotated entirely, 1.5 on Arsenal will be a thing of the past. They'll be down to 1.3, 1.25, right? So maybe if you have that intuition and if that's your view, always try and look at upcoming fixtures for a team and where their priorities will lie. Because if you can use that knowledge or the expectation of this happening, you will then beat the closing price, which is one of the key factors in determining a good bet. So my advice is if you agree with Lucas out there, back it now. Don't wait for the teams to back it because
I mean,
you might not get the same price.
the game they're playing Arsenal on Wednesday, and
Mm-hmm.
then Saturday they're playing probably one of the biggest games in the last I don't know how many years, right? So they got Thursday and Friday to recover, and then they got a massive game at Wembley. Like they're going to be rotating massively.
So it's not as short as Arsenal are at 1.5. They could go off an awfully lot shorter at kickoff.
Yeah,
So worth considering.
but then equally Arsenal. When are they playing? They're playing on the 23rd, and then on the 29th. Okay, they got a bit more time. They got almost a full week. Then they're playing PSG at home. So
It's also worth thinking about the fact that Arsenal have got a bigger squad, though, a more reliable squad.
yeah,
That they
so
can rotate.
maybe Arsenal might rotate less, right? So
Rotate
who
less, but
knows?
also have better players that they can call upon. You know,
Yeah.
Arsenal can call upon Ethan Wanyeri. No disrespect, but Palace will call upon Jeffrey Schlupp. Like it's like nothing against Jeffrey
Even
Schlupp. He's
still
a very,
play?
very competent player.
Does he even still play at Palace?
I think so. Maybe not. But the point being, he's not wherever he's playing. He's not Ethan Wanyeri, right? So that's kind of
He's
the.
at Celtic.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let's scratch that one. Thanks for looking that up. Uh,
how the internet,
but
man.
you get the point, right? Ultimately, it's just a privilege that bigger clubs seem to have. They just have better squads and better players in reserve, and that's why my point about Bournemouth stands to reason because obviously Bournemouth have less of a squad they can trust, which means that Iraola goes with a very similar 11 for most games. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same across the board. Just need to apologise to Jeffrey Schlupp on two counts there. Number one, for calling him not very good, and number two, for not knowing where he plays his football. So, Jeffrey, if you're listening, I'm extremely sorry. Let's summarise. I will kick off. I have got Palace to win the second half against Bournemouth at 2.62. I've got the Everton double chance against City at 1.95. And I have got the Fulham draw no bet at home to Chelsea at 2.13. And then finally, I've got the Forest away win. Away at Spurs at 2.86. As always, we suggest that you do bets as singles for the most optimal way to boost your ROI. However, for the dreamers that want to stick it in an acca, you can get it at 28-1.
Cool. I got quite a few this week. So I got Palace. I got Brentford 0 at 1.88 Asian handicap. Palace 0 1.86. I got Everton plus a half 1.9. I have Newcastle plus a quarter 1.88. I got Fulham 0 Asian handicap 2.13. And then I have Wolves at... What price was Wolves? Wolves at plus a half 1.85.
Oh my
The
God.
acca pays 48.
48-1 acca coming from the mind of Lucas Dazinski. I think this is the first podcast you've ever put up more tips than me. And to be honest, it's just nice to have you stick your neck on the line more than twice in a game week. So happy days.
It's the quality, not the quantity.
That's why I've got less than you.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, enjoy your football. Thanks for listening in to us, and make sure you bet responsibly, take care of yourself, and enjoy the football. Cheers.
Nice one.